The command center explosion had thrown Thera nearly 50 meters, her armored body carving a trench through the moon's dusty surface before crashing into the wreckage of a fallen cruiser. Now she lay half-buried beneath twisted metal, each breath a battle against shattered ribs. Blood the color of deep amethyst seeped from gashes where her exosuit had failed. 3 solar cycles had passed since the ambush. 3 cycles of fading in and out of consciousness, watching her bioindicators flicker on her cracked helmet display. The Vraxian Imperial fleet had already retreated, considering the moon lost, and with it, all remaining ground forces. No rescue would come. As commander of the 7th Vraxian Strike Force, Thera knew the protocol. Those who couldn't escape were casualties of war, sacrifices to the greater glory of the Empire. Her silver eyes narrowed as she toggled her communicator once more. Nothing but static. She'd die here, alone on this miserable rock. One more sunrise, she growled to herself, adjusting her position slightly before gasping at the white-hot pain that shot through her body. Her hand clutched the ceremonial blade at her side. A warrior should choose her own end. But not yet. Not today. A sound caught her attention. Footsteps, cautious but determined, moving through the debris field. Thera's hand tightened around her blade. If scavengers had come so soon, she would at least take one with her to the eternal void. The footsteps stopped. Something shifted in the wreckage above her, allowing a shaft of pale light to illuminate her hiding place. Hello? Anyone alive down there? The voice was unmistakably human. Male. Thera remained silent, assessing. Humans were technically allies in this conflict, but alliance meant little on abandoned battlefields. She had never trusted their kind, physically weaker, technologically inferior, yet somehow surviving despite their limitations. The opening widened as debris was carefully cleared away. A face appeared, tin skin smudged with grime, eyes a startling blue beneath a shock of dark hair. The human wore no military insignia, just a utility suit marked with the emblem of an engineering corps. I found someone, he called over his shoulder, though Thera detected no other presence nearby. His gaze returned to her, eyes widening at the sight of her injuries. Hold on. I'm coming down. Stay back, Thera snarled, raising her blade despite the agony it caused. I need no human assistance. The man paused, then continued his descent regardless. My scanner picked up your life signs. You've got multiple fractures and internal bleeding. Without medical attention, you won't last another night. Then I die as a warrior should. She bared her teeth sharper than a human's, designed for a predator's diet. He dropped down beside her, surprisingly agile, and opened a compact medical kit. I'm Roan, engineer with the Allied Reconstruction Unit. Not a soldier, but I've patched up enough of them to know what I'm doing. Thera attempted to shift away, but her body betrayed her with a wave of dizziness. I am Commander Thera Valshar of the 7th Vraxian Strike Force. Touch me and I will gut you. Roan merely nodded, as if threats from dying alien warriors were commonplace. Nice to meet you, Commander. Your people left 2 days ago. Mine never came. So it's just us now. He prepared a medical scanner, eyes meeting hers with unexpected intensity. You can stab me after I stop your bleeding, if you still want to. Something in his calm determination gave Thera pause. She had never encountered a human this close before, never looked one directly in the eyes. There was no fear there, only focused determination. Why help your enemy? She asked, suspicion lacing her weakening voice. Are we enemies? Roan asked simply, already applying a coagulant to her worst wound. I thought we were fighting on the same side of this war. But right now, we're just 2 people who got left behind. As her consciousness began to fade again, Thera found herself unable to look away from the human's face, steady hands working with practiced precision, jaw set with stubborn resolve. Her last thought before darkness claimed her was unexpectedly confusing. For a species so fragile, this human showed remarkable strength. Thera awoke to the unfamiliar sensation of bandages against her skin and the soft glow of a portable heater. She lay on a makeshift bed of salvaged cushioning materials inside what appeared to be a hastily constructed shelter, pieces of wreckage arranged to form walls and a ceiling, sealed with some kind of expanding foam. Outside, the winds howled across the moon's barren surface. You're awake. Good. The human, Roan, sat nearby, monitoring a small device. Your vital signs are stabilizing. Thera attempted to sit up, promptly regretting it as pain shot through her torso. How long? 2 days since I found you. You've been in and out. He approached cautiously, offering a container of water. Small sips. Your species' physiology is similar enough to humans that I could treat the basics, but I'm working blind on some of the details. Pride demanded she refuse his help, but survival instinct won out. She accepted the water, noting how he'd fashioned a drinking tube that accommodated her different mouth structure. You've treated Vraxians before, she observed. No, but I studied xenobiology. Engineering isn't just about machines. Roan checked one of her bandages, his touch clinical, yet somehow gentle. Those bone plates under your skin made setting your fractures challenging. They're called koresh, evolved for protection. Thera studied him as he worked. Most humans find our appearance unsettling. Roan's eyes met hers, a hint of amusement crossing his features. I've worked on moons where the local fauna would give your nightmares. Your silver eyes and purple blood aren't going to scare me off. Something about his directness disarmed her. Vraxian communication valued bluntness, while most other species she'd encountered practiced deception through politeness. Why are you still here? She asked. The battle ended. Your forces retreated. I was separated from my unit during the evacuation. He began preparing a nutrient solution. Comms are down. Emergency beacons are transmitting, but it could be weeks before anyone sweeps this sector again. Thera absorbed this information. So you were stranded. Yet you waste resources on an enemy combatant. Allied combatant, he corrected. And I don't consider any life a waste of resources. As days passed, Thera gradually regained strength. She observed Roan's daily routine, his methodical gathering of supplies, ingenious water reclamation system, and tireless effort to improve their shelter. He worked with quiet efficiency, humming unfamiliar tunes that somehow made their dire situation seem less hopeless. On the 5th day, she managed to sit upright without assistance. Your species recovers quickly, Roan remarked, returning from a scavenging run with salvaged communications components. We're warriors bred for resilience, she replied, though privately she suspected his care had accelerated her healing. What are you building? Signal amplifier. Might help us catch any passing transmissions. He settled beside her, tools spread across his lap. So, Commander Valshar, are Vraxians really as merciless as the stories say? Thera bristled. Are humans really as soft and sentimental as yours suggest? Instead of taking offense, Roan laughed, a warm sound that caught her off guard. Touché. Though I'd argue sentiment has its uses. Such as, it's why I checked that wreckage for survivors instead of heading straight for the evacuation point. His fingers worked deftly with the components. Call it sentiment or instinct. Either way, here we are. Thera considered his words. In Vraxian culture, such action would be deemed foolish rather than admirable. Yet she couldn't deny the outcome had benefited her. That night, as the temperature dropped dangerously low, the shelter's heating system faltered. Without comment, Roan moved his sleeping mat closer to hers, sharing body heat. Thera tensed initially at the proximity, but said nothing. His warmth was not unpleasant. Your people have a saying, she said finally into the darkness, about the battlefield making strange companions. I begin to understand its meaning. In the dim light, she saw Roan smile. I believe the phrase is strange bedfellows, actually. For the first time since the crash, Thera felt something unexpected ease through her pain and pride, the ghost of amusement, and perhaps something more. Rest, human, she murmured. Tomorrow I will show you how to properly reinforce the northern wall of our shelter. Our shelter, Roan repeated softly, eyes already closing. Progress. As sleep claimed her, Thera realized she no longer clutched her blade as she rested. Somehow, despite everything she'd been taught about humans, she trusted this one to keep watch while she healed. By the 10th day, Thera could walk short distances, though each step remained an exercise in controlling pain. She observed Roan as he worked on upgrading their communications array, his forehead furrowed in concentration. You wear your thoughts on your face, she noted. On Vraxos, such transparency would be considered a weakness. Roan glanced up, hands still working. And on Earth, hiding everything behind a mask would be considered suspicious. Cultural differences. He paused. Though I'd argue seeing emotions as weakness is itself a kind of weakness. Explain. Thera lowered herself carefully beside him, curious despite herself. Emotions are data, valuable information about situations and relationships. Ignoring data doesn't seem smart for a species that prides itself on tactical superiority. The observation was unexpectedly insightful. Thera had never considered emotions as tactical information before. You speak like a philosopher, not an engineer. Maybe I'm both. His shoulder brushed against hers as he reached for a tool, the brief contact sending an unexpected warmth through her skin. Engineering is about understanding systems. People are just more complex systems. Later that day, their shelter shook violently as a geomagnetic storm rolled across the moon's surface. Roan rushed to secure their equipment, while Thera braced herself against the wall, frustrated by her limited mobility. The shelter won't hold against this. Roan shouted over the howling wind. We need to move to lower ground. He helped her navigate through the deteriorating structure to a natural crevice beneath a rock formation. The space was cramped, forcing them into close proximity as they huddled away from the storm. Your breathing is labored, she observed, noticing the strain on his face. Just dusty out there. I'm fine. But his voice betrayed him with a wheeze. Without thinking, Thera reached toward him, pressing her palm against his chest. Vraxians can filter toxins. Let me help. Before he could protest, she leaned forward, bringing her face close to his. Breathe when I exhale, she instructed, then released a measured breath carrying natural compounds from her secondary respiratory system, compounds that would neutralize the caustic moon dust in his lungs. Their faces remained inches apart, an intimacy that would be considered inappropriate among her people outside medical necessity. Yet as Roan's breathing eased, neither pulled away immediately. That's remarkable, he said softly, eyes locked with hers. Thank you. The storm raged on, forcing them to remain in close quarters for hours. As they waited, Roan shared stories of Earth, its oceans and forests, concepts foreign to a warrior raised on Vraxos's regimented habitation domes. I'd like to see an ocean someday, Thera admitted, surprising herself with the confession. Maybe you will. His hand found hers in the darkness, a gesture she understood was significant for humans. She didn't pull away. My unit would not comprehend this situation between us. Mine wouldn't either, Roan chuckled. Engineer fraternizing with an alien commander? Definitely against protocol. Is that what we're doing? Fraternizing. The word felt strange on her tongue. In the dim emergency light, his expression grew serious. I don't know what we're doing, Thera. I just know I'm glad I found you under that wreckage. The storm eventually subsided, but something fundamental had shifted between them. As they emerged to assess the damage to their shelter, Thera found herself viewing Roan differently, not as merely a useful human or temporary ally, but as something her language had no precise word for. That night, as they rebuilt their compromised shelter, their hands met repeatedly during the work. Each contact seemed charged with unspoken meaning. When they finally rested, exhausted from their efforts, Thera made a decision that defied her training. In Vraxian culture, she said quietly, warriors often form bonds with those who've fought beside them. These bonds transcend ordinary relationships. Roan turned toward her, his expression questioning but patient. I believe, she continued, meeting his gaze directly, that we have fought this moon together, you and I. Slowly, deliberately, she extended her hand in the Vraxian gesture of profound respect, palm up, fingers splayed to show trust. After a moment's hesitation, Roan placed his hand atop hers, his warm fingers intertwining with her cooler ones. Neither spoke of what it meant. Neither needed to. 2 weeks into their isolation, Thera's strength had largely returned. She moved around their expanded shelter with growing confidence, often catching Roan watching her with an expression she was beginning to understand. You stare at me when you think I'm not looking, she said one evening as they shared a meal of reconstituted rations. Roan didn't deny it. I'm trying to figure you out. And what have you concluded? That you're beautiful. The words hung between them, startlingly direct. Not just physically, though you are. There's something about the way you move, the way you think. It's compelling. Heat rushed to Thera's face, a physiological response her people rarely acknowledged. Humans find Vraxians attractive? Our cultures list numerous physical incompatibilities. I didn't say attractive. I said beautiful. Roan set aside his meal. There's a difference. Explain. He considered his words carefully. Beauty transcends physical response. It's about recognizing something essential in another being that resonates with you. Makes you want to be closer to it. Thera processed this. On Vraxos, we have a concept called Talsharon recognition of another's vital essence. Warriors seek it in worthy opponents or exceptional allies. Is that what I am to you? An ally. The question demanded honesty. You were. Now you are, not categorizable by Vraxian standards. Try human standards, he suggested gently. Before she could respond, their proximity sensors blared. Roan rushed to the monitor. 6 humanoid figures approaching. Not human or Vraxian biosignatures. Scavengers, most likely. Thera immediately shifted to combat stance. How heavily armed? Energy weapons, low grade. He grabbed his makeshift stun weapon. We should hide, eh? No. Her silver eyes gleamed. I will not cower while scavengers threaten what we've built. You're not fully healed, eh? I am Vraxian, she cut him off. And you are under my protection. The skirmish was brief, but intense. Despite her injuries, Thera moved with lethal precision, her combat training evident in every strike. Roan fought alongside her, their movements somehow synchronized despite never having trained together. When a scavenger took aim at Roan's unprotected back, Thera intercepted the blast with her armored forearm, the impact reopening one of her healing wounds. After driving off the remaining scavengers, Roan rushed to examine her injury. That was reckless, he admonished, applying pressure to the bleeding gash. It was necessary. She winced as he cleaned the wound. You would have been killed. Why risk yourself for me? His voice was tight with concern and something deeper. Thera caught his hand, pressing it firmly against her chest where her dual hearts beat a rapid rhythm. Because these beat differently now when you were near. It is. Unsettling. But not unwelcome. Understanding dawned on his face. With careful deliberation, he guided her hand to his own chest, letting her feel his quickened heartbeat. Same here. Just one heart, but it's definitely noticed you. The moment stretched between them, charged with possibility. Then, with characteristic human boldness, Roan leaned forward and pressed his lips gently against hers, a human gesture she had read about but never experienced. Thera froze momentarily, then responded, adapting to this alien form of intimacy. When they parted, she studied his face with wonder. This is not in the Alliance protocols, she murmured, a rare hint of humor in her voice. Roan laughed softly. Definitely off-book. That night, they explored their differences and similarities with careful curiosity, her cooler skin against his warmth, his 5 fingers entwined with her 6. They discovered that despite evolutionary divergence, pleasure and tenderness translated across species. As they lay together afterward, Thera traced the outline of a scar on Roan's shoulder. What happens when rescue comes? She asked, the question that had lingered unspoken between them. I don't know, he admitted, but I'm not willing to pretend this didn't happen, that you didn't change me. Change is permanent, she agreed, pressing her forehead to his in the Vraxian gesture of deep connection. Whatever comes, we face it together. Outside their shelter, the alien moon continued its orbit, indifferent to the improbable bond formed upon its battle-scarred surface. The signal came at dawn on the 23rd day, a Vraxian retrieval beacon, followed hours later by human search frequencies. Rescue was imminent. Reality had found them at last. Thera and Roan stood at the entrance of their shelter, watching the distant lights of approaching vessels. Her hand found his, fingers interlocking in what had become a familiar gesture. Your people will arrive first, Roan observed, the unspoken question hanging between them. Yes. Thera's expression remained composed, but her grip tightened. They will expect their commander to return, to resume her duties as if nothing has changed. Has it? Changed, I mean. His voice carried a vulnerability she'd come to recognize. Thera turned to face him fully. You know it has. I am not who I was when you found me beneath that wreckage. That warrior would never have considered. She gestured between them, this possibility. And now I see paths where before I saw only the singular road of duty. She touched his face, memorizing its contours. But reality remains. I command a strike force. You build and create. Our worlds orbit different stars. Roan covered her hand with his own. They don't have to. Before she could respond, their communications array crackled to life. Commander Valshar, this is Retrieval Unit 7. We have locked onto your position. Extraction in 20 minutes. With practiced efficiency, they gathered their essential belongings. Each movement felt weighted with significance, the last time they would seal their shelter, the final check of their makeshift defenses. I'm requesting reassignment, Roan said suddenly, to the Joint Vraxian Human Engineering Corps. Thera stilled. Such positions are rare. Competitive. I have unique qualifications now. A smile touched his lips. First-hand experience working with Vraxian physiology and psychology. Hope, an emotion she'd rarely permitted herself before meeting him, flared within her. It would still be complicated. Life usually is. He stepped closer. But I've spent 3 weeks solving complicated problems with you. I'm willing to tackle more. The approaching engines grew louder. Decision time. Thera squared her shoulders, the commander's posture returning naturally. The 7th Strike Force could benefit from dedicated engineering support. As commander, I could requisition such resources directly. His eyes widened slightly. You'd request me specifically. I would cite our proven field compatibility and successful cooperative survival as justification. Her formal tone softened. And I would tell my second-in-command, privately, that I have found my Tal Shiran in a human engineer. The first retrieval vessel appeared overhead, Vraxian insignia gleaming against its hull. As the landing procedures began, Roan pulled her into an embrace that would scandalize both their cultures. Commander Valshar, he murmured against her ear, are you proposing an indefinite alliance? I believe humans would call it something else. She drew back just enough to meet his gaze. Something that transcends military protocol. The ship's ramp extended toward them. Representatives of her world approached, expressions betraying surprise at the scene before them. Their revered commander in the arms of a human. They're going to demand explanations, Roan noted. Thera straightened, every inch the commander, while still keeping her hand firmly in his. Then we will provide them. Together. As they walked toward the waiting ship, side by side rather than commander and rescued civilian, Thera realized they carried something more valuable than either of their cultures might immediately understand. Proof that connection could be found in the most unlikely circumstances, and that sometimes, salvation came in forms no training could prepare you for. Behind them, their shelter stood empty but intact, a monument to survival, ingenuity, and the unexpected discovery that sometimes, across vast differences of evolution and culture, hearts could recognize each other. Ahead lay uncertainty, prejudice, regulations, and resistance. But also possibility. And for two beings who had already beaten the odds of an abandoned battlefield, possibility was more than enough.